Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Thursday, the 11th day of July, 2024, Thursday of the 14th week of the year, the 14th week in Ordinary Time. It is also a day in which we honor the memory of St. Benedict of Nursia, the great founder of Western monasticism. He began the whole idea of men, and then his sister Scholastica began the idea of women living together in community based upon a rule whose centerpiece was work and prayer, and those become the hallmarks of monastic life. As a way to draw people closer to God, as one of many ideas in which are ways of life in which people can draw closer to God. And so we remember him. He's the patron saint of Europe. He is known, and again, the Benedictine communities, although they divided and reformed themselves many times over, are known for their hospitality and for their graciousness, especially to travelers and to strangers. Again, embodying those ideas and those hallmarks of what it means to be a believer in this world, what it means to be a person of faith in this world. So remember and honor all those who have embraced monastic life on this day in which we honor their founder, Benedict. There are special readings for him, but we got the readings for today. And so readings for today, Hosea continues the saga. Again, it's the continuing saga. All of these Old Testament readings that we've had in the past couple of months. Again, looking at this history of Israel. And again, looking back in this history of Israel, looking back to the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom that separates from the kingdom of Judah in the south after the death of Solomon, on the brink of disaster because the Assyrian armies are massing forces and are going to overrun the country because it's made bad alliances and it's made itself weak, not following, again, the way of life that God intends it to follow. And Hosea, God speaking through Hosea, basically tries to say, you're going to come to destruction and you're going to get destruction because of your consequences and things like that. But it's interesting how this passage ends today, is that Hosea, God speaks through Hosea by saying, I have to stop what I'm saying in one way because I am not the one to wreak havoc upon Israel for what it has done, because that is what human beings do to each other, and perhaps even what the idea that human beings have of other gods and goddesses, what they do when there's disobedience or when people don't follow or people are acting erroneously or whatever in their lives. But God says, I am not like you, humanity. I am God, and so I will continue to care for you as much as I can and feel sorry for you for what happens. And it's sort of a wonderful awakening or realization, again, that God is stating that helps Israel realize that it's not a punishment from God what's going to happen to them. It's because of their because of their actions and the consequences that follow from them, which is something that's always important for us to remember. It's not, again, how I've offended God, how I've offended God, how I've offended God. It's how have I offended others or myself. Again, that matters. And again, to pick up and begin again, or to correct as needed. Again, God doesn't necessarily need the correction. We are the ones who need the correction. And we need the ones, again, perhaps mostly, especially in our corrections with our relationships with ourselves. And so there is this kind of sense. Again, he speaks of Ephraim, not wanting to have any more punishment upon Ephraim. Who is Ephraim? Again, the 12 tribes of Israel, named for the 12 sons of Jacob. Joseph becoming the most famous one, who was sold into slavery in Egypt, but then becomes the rescuer when there was a famine in the Promised Land, and the brothers have to go to Egypt, to live. Everything is right until there's oppression and there's an exodus. But what happens? Well, the 12 tribes will leave Israel, but because of Joseph's status, he is not necessarily given the name of one of the tribes that leave. It's to his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who take up the leadership of what was the tribe of Joseph. So sometimes it's like there's 13 tribes and not 12 or whatever, so but there's 11 tribes kind of in the north, or 10 tribes in the north, 11 if you count the two names, the guys, but they were, Ephraim and Manasseh, because they were the tribe of Joseph, were the centerpiece clans in the kingdom of Israel, and so this is who God is speaking to. Their leadership was bad, unfortunately, and so it's their consequences again, but God rescues, and God always rescues. And how does God rescue? Well, again, in many different ways, we believe that it is through Christ. Again, through the personification or the living of God here in our time and our place. And so with Christ today in Matthew's Gospel, we have an interesting way of how to act more like God and not act like ourselves, and not act too much like our humanity, which can sometimes be bad. Not that our humanity is bad; it is good. But how can we act more like God? And it's this idea of sending out these apostles, and they're to preach and proclaim that the kingdom of God is at hand. point blank, no more, no less. Kingdom of God is at hand. And how are they supposed to act as they do that? Well, with graciousness and gratitude. Again, the two hallmarks, again, not just of what would make a person a believer, but what also makes a person a human being in the fullness of their human being, in the fullness of their humanity. Graciousness and gratitude. You go into a house and receive what's given to you, receive what's placed on the table, receive how you're supposed to, where you're going to stay, all these kinds of things like that. Do not move from house to house, these kinds of things like that. Do not become annoying, basically, is what God is saying, is what Christ is saying, because annoying is not of God, and annoying does not show appreciation for what it is. Again, not only the work that you're doing as being a proclaimer of the word, but also being a person, again, who demonstrates what it means to be received by this word that they are proclaiming to you. Graciousness and gratitude. It's not hard for anybody to do, but sometimes it's the most difficult thing for people to do. But it makes us more and more witnesses to the gospel and witnesses in this world of God's love and God's grace. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.